What's up, everyone? It is Mike Barkoff here, fresh off of the release of Down. This is the first chat with creators that I am partaking in which the project was not recent, so bear with me as I may have a little bit of a hard time remembering all the specifics because the project was filmed upwards to a year and a half ago, depending on the episode or the scene. But I think the project's fairly self-explainable, so I guess I just wanted to explain why we released it. A big part of the reason why we released this project was not to stir up any issues with anyone that was involved with it, because some of the people that were involved with it are now, I guess you could coin, alienated to us. It wasn't to cause that or drama or any ruckus or hell. It was merely because I wanted to A, give you guys something to tide you over in the months of the two biggest holidays, because it wasn't that we necessarily had a shortage of projects, it was just that, you know, this whole year we kind of, the first half of the year I suppose, we were on this whole hiatus, and it's kind of my way of making up for that as we release these inside with some other, alongside with some other projects of ours that we've been working on. But I also wanted to release it as a means for you guys to see something that we did a long time ago, something that I wouldn't necessarily knock. I'm very self-critical, if you're unaware, but it's definitely not something that I think is a sterling moment. It's not something that I put out there because I thought that it would be memorable by any means. I put it out because I wanted people to see how far we've come, and the fact that we are consistently always trying to improve our wrongs in terms of the production and the storytelling and the acting, all aspects. And we're always consistently trying to improve our drive, in terms of the quality of what we put out. That's been one thing that Zach and I have been discussing ever since we've been getting Live Free Up off the ground, is quality over quantity, which is why the short film release has been a little bit slower as opposed to Barking Vans was. That's a whole other thing. I didn't even coincide, I didn't even talk to Zach when I decided to release this. This was very much a personal idea. I really, literally just made the decision on my own about half an hour ago, and I just wanted to clear the air and say that it's not because it's a project that I think you guys are going to want to see. There might be moments, yeah, especially in, I believe it's episodes 1 and maybe 5, I want to say, that you might, walk away laughing at and being like, oh, that was pretty decent. But all in all, I myself would probably give the project a 5.5 or a 6 out of 10 if even. It's been so long since I've edited the episodes together, but from what I remember, there was a lot of problems. I guess one thing is that, as I mentioned before, the project is upwards to a year and a half to a year old, and that the reason behind that is we started filming it in March, and I don't believe we ended filming until December, I want to say. And when you got a project like that, it's very hard to tackle, because you have all these ideas on paper, all these ideas in your head, and you got to find a way to combine them with the ideas that you've already put to the screen. And at times it can be fun, a good exercise, a good test to you and the team or whoever's working on it. But at other times it just doesn't come together well, especially depending on the team involved's commitment. And in this case, not to diss the team because they all did great, but there was just a lack of understanding. And that a big part of that was my fault, because I didn't really include people in, how do I best word this? There's people involved in future episodes, like I want to say 3 and 4, that were uninvolved during episodes like 1 and 2. And they weren't filled in on necessarily what happened in 1 and 2, even though 1 and 2 were completed, or the script's completed, or the ideas, playing in our heads. and we didn't really fill them in with the full story. Whereas if we had done that as opposed to what we actually did, it probably would have been a bit better. So more than anything, I decided to put this out so you guys could have a project to fall back on from our past and kind of examine and, you know, hopefully compare to what we're doing now, and hopefully see that we are trying to fix any mistakes that we had before. Like I said, it's not by any means a terrible project. I just know that there was a lot of things that we definitely could have done better. We were dealing with a lot of time constraints, small ass budget, really small budget, you know, all that. And you know, when you are patient and you have all those things, the film is just inevitably much better, you know. So, or project, miniseries, whatever you're working on. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is I didn't put it out there for you guys to see and hold grace upon. I put it out there so hopefully you guys could see something that we did, which I will admit faults to. We didn't do very well. And hopefully you guys can compare it to what we're working on now and see that we are very much so trying to improve. Not just for the sakes of ourselves, but also for the sakes of you. And I guess that's it. I did want to add that there will not be a chat with creator for any more episodes of Down. As I mentioned before, it is pretty self-explanatory. I just wanted to discuss the release and the idea behind the release. But one thing that I would like to, I guess, jump off that statement with is it does hold means to great potential that someday other projects that were vetoed or cut may eventually find their way to you. So let's hope. Alright, have a great day.